Hello FPL managers and welcome back to another FPL season. Yes, the 2021-22 season has launched. The game is live. You can go register your team now. This video is just going to be a reaction to the game launching. I'm going to have a look at some player prices. Going to have a look at, whether they've got the pricing right, whether they've got the pricing wrong. Also going to have, pull together an initial squad. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail around that squad. I'm not going to call it a first draft either because it's literally, a squad that I'm going to pull together on the actual video. So it's going to be, a bit rough around the edges, but I was keen to get this video out there and hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. Before we do jump into it, a cheeky plug for the Fantasy Football Hub membership. I know thousands of you have already signed up, so thank you for that. If you have been thinking about signing up, now is absolutely the time to do it. We've got a ridiculously good early bird membership discount. Some of the benefits are there for you to see in the bottom right hand side of the screen. There are loads more benefits. There's just a whole wealth of tools that you can use. Everything is designed to ensure that you dominate your FPL mini leagues this season. So if you are interested in that, I'll leave a link in the description and in the information card above. The other little thing that I would like to ask you is to just hit that subscribe button. We are aiming for 75k subscribers by the start of the season, which is a bit of a big target, I have to admit, but we're going to go for it this season. We're going to be producing a lot more FPL content and hopefully make it really useful for you guys. So just hit that subscribe button. It would really help us out. Okay, so what I thought I'd do is begin to build a squad and just go through, my initial reaction to each of the positions and who I think potentially could be some good picks in there. I've got to stress, this is the first time I've opened the game. I haven't really been paying too much attention to the early price reveals either. So this is very much an initial reaction. I'm sure I'm going to miss a lot of players, but I'll save those for later videos. It's just going to be, my initial reaction to the prices and some of the players that I think are going to be some good picks. So initially there, I think, Martinez priced at 5.5. I think that's probably fair. There are some interesting picks in here, though, that I think could be some serious options. The likes of Leno, 5 million. The likes of Schmeichel here, also coming in at 5 million. The likes of De Gea, 5 million as well. So typically, and Henderson there, which United keeper is going to get that spot? United have got some good early fixtures. I think could be really, really interesting. Sanchez, again, 4.5. I would typically go for a 4.5 goalkeeper, and I think that there's a strong case to be made for still doing that. However, I also really like the look of Schmeichel. I also really like the look of De Gea. So I might extend that budget to 5 million. I usually go for a 4.0 as my backup goalkeeper. Used to do a lot of goalkeeper rotation, but it never really worked out. So I'm a big believer in just having, just going for the one keeper. I think I actually am going to go for a 4.5 to start with. Sanchez, obviously Brighton have got some really nice fixtures. He's pretty much their number one. Brighton have got some really good defensive numbers. And actually, while we're on Brighton, I think I might go for Ben White as well, because I know I was looking at some of the prices earlier, and I think the Ben White is great value at 4.5 as well. So I'm going to stick him in there. I'm also going to go for, start the video off with a triple Brighton defence. But I'm not going to go for any of their forwards or midfielders. So I think going for their backup goalie in Steele makes a lot of sense as well. So I'm going to stick him in there as well. But in terms of the keepers overall, I think that they've probably got the pricing right. I think it's nice that they've reduced some of those premium goalkeeper prices to actually make them options now, because they never really were options before, just because the amount of save points that the budget goalkeepers used to rack up. So yeah, I do quite like the way that they price the keepers. Moving on to defenders then, and it's interesting here, not completely surprising. Trent Alexander-Arnold being the most expensive one. Robertson slightly outscored. They basically got the same points last season. But I think that pricing is probably fair. If Trent had been 7 million, then it would have been a bit of a no-brainer to go with him. I think these guys are very, very strong options, especially given the early fixtures that Liverpool have. Norwich away, Burnley at home, then Chelsea away, then Leicester. So I think those are some very good fixtures. And I can certainly see Trent and Robertson coming into my FPL draft. So I think those are really good picks. Moving a little bit further down here, I think that Diaz is well priced, 6.6 million. Chilwell, again, 6 million. I know that he was the same price as Azpilicueta. I think that Chilwell obviously is the much better pick there. Shaw coming in at 5.5. Manchester United have got some really good fixtures as well. I'm a little bit surprised that he's been priced the same as Maguire, the same as Wan-Bissaka. I think that he's probably the better pick. I know that he didn't get as many points as Wan-Bissaka last year, but I think on balance, I'd much prefer Shaw as a pick. So he's going to go in for me. So I'm going to jump around a bit chaotically here. I'm just going to switch over to Everton because I know that they've got some really nice some really nice fixtures. First of all, look at those fixtures: Southampton, Leeds, Brighton, Burnley. Some really, really nice fixtures there. So Lucas Digne there, priced at 5.5, I think is a great pick. And obviously there's a few unknowns. We don't know the Everton manager situation. Everton weren't great defensively last season. However, Dean, he was in my team towards the end of the season. He was a great pick. He did well on bonus. And he's always been a good FPL pick. And I think coming in at 5.5 offers a lot of value. So he's going to go into the team as well, given that Everton have some really nice fixtures. While we're on Everton, I think there are some other good options here. You look at the likes of James Rodriguez there, and him coming in at 7.0, I think makes him an option, just because you look back to the start of last season and he got off to an absolute flyer. And I think that part of the reason that he struggled during the season was just the games coming thick and fast, and his body just couldn't cope. But at the start of the season, given Everton's fixtures, I do think that he could be an option. My preference, though, is probably to go with Calvert-Lewin. At 8.0, I think that that's priced pretty fairly. I think he could have even been a little bit more. Richarlison at 7.5, I think I may have been tempted with him if he was 7.0, but for now, I'm going to go for Calvert-Lewin. Switching over to Leicester then, and immediately I quite like Fofana. Leicester have some pretty good fixtures. I think that he's likely to get starts, and he's a good one that you can potentially rotate. I've got to say I haven't looked at rotations yet. I will cover that in another video. I think defensive rotations are potentially quite fruitful, especially at the start of the season. So I'm going to include Fofana. While we're on Leicester, I think that they're, Justin, if he can get back fit, then a 5.0, I think that he's a ridiculous value. Moving slightly further down, Harvey Barnes at 7.0, I think that he could offer great value. Now, the real shock here, though, is the difference between Vardy and Iheanacho. Vardy coming in at 10.5. I think that's overpriced, even though, of course, he's got penalties. I think that 10.5 is going to be difficult to justify. They've got some decent fixtures, but, given Iheanacho's form towards the end of last season, at 7.5, that difference of 3 million, I think is, I think they've got that a little bit wrong. And I think those two should be closer in price. So I think Iheanacho is definitely the one that I would strongly consider. I'm not going to include him in this draft because I think there are potentially some better options. But I think that Iheanacho, if Leicester stick with the two up top philosophy, which I think there's a good chance they do because it was so successful last season, I think Iheanacho is going to be a really, really strong option. Just switching over to Villa then, we've talked a bit about Martinez. I think that their defence is okay, but I don't see too many attacking options from there. But you certainly could go for one of the budget options. Grealish, I am interested in. Obviously he's getting a price hike to 8 million, which I think is is probably a fair reflection. The reason that I'm interested in is not so much his price, but the early fixtures there. Watford, Newcastle, and Brentford in the first three. Typically, I look to wildcard, around game week 4, game week 5. So I might look to really take advantage of those fixtures. And actually, I think that I'm going to go for Grealish and I'm going to go for Watkins. Watkins priced at 7.5. I think that he's probably been a little bit underpriced. I was expecting him to come around the 8 million mark. So given their fixtures and given the fact that I think he's a little bit underpriced, I'm going to go for him as well. The other player that I would strongly consider is of course, Buendia. Got the transfer in there. He's got some fantastic stats from the Championship. Don't quite know in the position that he's going to be playing for Villa. and I would like to see him play a few matches before decide to start with him, in game week 1. But I do think that, throughout the season, Buendia is going to be a good FPL option. The other team I'm taking a little bit of a closer look at here is Manchester City. It was interesting to see. I thought Stones and Diaz would be priced the same, but Stones coming in at 5.5, I think makes him an option. Cancelo and Diaz are, of course, options as well. Those Cancelo's just, got so much attacking potential, and Diaz is just completely nailed on that I think both of those have to be considered, and I think that they're priced fairly. I haven't got any sort of complaints around those. Manchester City obviously have a little bit of a tricky opening. It's not terrible, and they are Manchester City, so, they're probably going to win all of these games anyway. But I'm not looking to load up on their players. I think that there are better options. Moving on to the midfield, though, and again, I think these prices, for me, I think they're a little bit off. De Bruyne priced at 12 million. He didn't have a good season last season, and I think last season he was priced at, was it 11 or 11.5? So for him to go up in value, I think is a little bit surprising. Sterling, I was hoping that he was going to be a bit cheaper. Him priced at 11 kind of rules him out as an option as well, to be honest. The one that I really do like the look of is Foden. Obviously his minutes are always going to be a slight question, but, I think that actually Pep, certainly towards the back end of last season, he was beginning to trust Foden more than he was Sterling. And, Foden seems to have better stats, better goal threat than Sterling. So for him to come in 3 million cheaper than Sterling, I think is pretty surprising, to be honest. And actually, I'm going to chuck Foden in here just because I think that he's going to be, I'm backing him to have an amazing season. I'm backing Manchester City to have an amazing season. Switching over to Manchester United then, very quickly. Obviously, we talked about Shaw, and I've opted for him. The other one I think is a bit of a no-brainer, to be honest, given their fixtures and given that he's just such a fantasy beast, given that he's on penalties, is Fernandes. Obviously, he's now priced at 12 million, which I think is probably about right, to be honest. He'd probably have been in my team if he was 12.5, so I wouldn't have minded him coming in at 12.5. I think that 12 is probably about fair, but given their fixtures and all the rest of it, I think that's he's coming into my side for the time being. You could certainly look at Rashford. You could certainly look at Greenwood as well. I think those are the main contenders, really. Greenwood, I think at 7.5, he's been priced quite well, but his game time isn't always 100% guaranteed. Rashford, he's been a little bit on and off. 9.5, decent price, but Fernandes is the main guy there. He's going to be the one that's churning out the FPL points, and I think that he's I wouldn't go far as a no-brainer, but he's just looking at the fixtures and given his track record, I think that it makes a lot of sense to go with Fernandes. The other team I want to take a little bit of a closer look at is Leeds. I think there's some interesting price points here. First thing to note is that Dallas is now a midfielder, priced at 5.5. I think that probably rules him out. I don't think he's going to be a terrible option, but if you look at Rafinha for just an extra million, I think that he's probably going to be the main man. In fact, I think Rafinha is criminally underpriced, to be honest. Leeds don't have fantastic fixtures. In fact, some pretty difficult fixtures, but Rafinha coming in at 6.5, I just think that's criminal pricing, and because it's criminal pricing, I'm going to include him in my team. Bamford at 8 million, I think is probably priced about right. Again, if he'd been 8.5 and Rafinha had been 8, I would have said that's probably about right. I think him coming in at 8, he's still a decent option, but Rafinha coming in at 6.5, I think that, they've got his pricing wrong on that one. In terms of the midfielders, we've touched a lot on these. The big one that we haven't touched on is, of course, Mo Salah. Given Liverpool's fixtures, given the fact that, similar to Fernandes, he's just an FPL beast, I think that, he definitely needs to be included in the squad. And that leaves 9 million to make up the other two positions. Again, these positions are going to be bench fodder pretty much. So I'm just going to pick some random bench players. Okay, so this is how that squad looks. And I've got to stress that you know, I've only been looking at the game for the last 20 minutes. It's very much an initial reaction squad. This is, I wouldn't call this sort of my first draft even. This is just something I pulled together on a whim. I will, of course, be doing a more detailed first draft over the next few days. So if you're interested in that, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. I think in general, though, I found it pretty easy to create a first draft, which I think is probably wrong, actually. You know, I'd like it to be quite difficult and for you to really go and have to find those budget players. So I'm a little bit disappointed in the pricing. You know, if I'm perfectly honest, I was hoping that it would be a little bit more challenging to create a squad, because that's part of you know, the fun of FPL is finding those budget players. But you know, FPL is launched. I'm super excited to do a bit more research on these players, to look at the numbers, to find out who really are the best value players. But let me know in the comments, you know, what you think of this draft, what you think of the general player pricing. Do you think I'm right? Do you think that players have been a bit underpriced? Do you think it's a little bit too easy to create a squad? And also let me know in the comments what videos you would like to see, because I'm really interested to hear that, because, you know, we're going to be producing a lot more FPL content. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please do drop it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Bye for now.